Hi everyone, I'm Megan Knoll. I'm the professor for this section of ANAT5, which is now called Basic Human Anatomy and Physiology from Monterey Peninsula College, and I am welcoming you into my messy Los Angeles apartment, partly to show you that I am not local to Monterey and that I'm a real human. And welcome to this class. I wanted to give you a bit of information about the course before you start. One thing about knowing that I'm in Los Angeles is so that you know that this class is completely asynchronous because the commute from Los Angeles to Monterey is 5 hours, so definitely not doing that. The upside is that means you can interact with the course material on your own schedule whenever you want. The downside is that means you can't meet with me face to face in office hours, except we can do Zoom anytime you need. So before we get into more detail there, let's talk a bit about the course. So you're going to be interacting with the material for this course almost completely through Canvas, okay? And we're going to talk a little bit about that. I do offer some fun little extra credit bits now and then, and so I will introduce you to the very first one very soon. But let's see, how do you get to our course? If you don't know yet, everything happens through Canvas. And so what you do is you click on Logo Apps and you do your login. If you don't have an MPC login yet, please talk to IT as soon as possible because everything you need to do for your courses is going to happen through Canvas, not just my course. This, by the way, in the background, that's my dog Beans. I like to call her my teaching assistant. She doesn't do a lot of assisting. She does a lot of noise, so that's fun. Um, uh, Moving on. What you need to know is when you go to Lobo Apps, go to Canvas. And what you're going to see on Canvas is your dashboard that has all of your courses, okay? And these open as the professors open them. So as I'm recording this, I haven't published our course yet because obviously this needs to be in it. And so I have to finish this video before I can do that. Oh, you may not be able to see my dog. I just realized. Anyway, moving on. The course, when you click on it, you're going to get to the main page of the class, okay? And here is the key. This is your very first extra credit point. You are going to interact with the material for this course completely through Canvas. There is a moment when you're going to go to the McGraw-Hill site just to set up your book, but that then will funnel everything you need into Canvas. And by doing it through Canvas, that's Beans, you are going to be able to follow the material as I've designed the course. Beans is very excited about this course as well. And you're going to also get the lectures and any extra material and anything, study guides, lecture notes, etc., that you need through this layout, okay? So let's, what do I want to do first? Let's talk to you about me a little bit. I've been teaching for Monterey Peninsula College for about 10 years. I've been teaching in general for 16, 17 years, something like that. I live in Los Angeles because I run a high school research institute for a high school. And so what that is students get to design their own research projects as if they're in a graduate or a lab or something. Anyway, not here nor there, but in the past I've taught college and high school classes in anatomy, physiology, marine biology, physics, chemistry, basic earth science, climate change, basically any science class except for computer science. I have taught so many things. Anatomy is one of my favorites because I like to think about how our body works and how evolution works because everything we do is the result of 3.8 billion years of evolution. And so there's some weird stuff in there. And the point of evolution is, well, it doesn't not work. And so basically, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So there's some things in our anatomy and physiology that don't make a lot of sense logically, but they don't not work. And so if it ain't broke, it works, right? But before we get into that, let's talk very generally about, if you're not an evolution person, don't worry. There's not as much of that as there is everything else. But let's talk about our syllabus. So if you are new to a college class, if you're new to syllabus. The syllabus is the outline of the course. It basically keeps everyone honest. It's got everything that is required by law to be included in the course because this is a public class. Public institution. So we're going to talk about you could read the rationale, the learning outcomes, and the education, etc. This is all also presented when you register for the course, so I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail. What you do need to know is that, again, I am not local to Monterey, so office hours are through Zoom and by appointment. Just send me an email and we'll do them. I used to sit and have regular office hours every Tuesday, Thursday for 2 hours at a time, and then after 3 semesters of no one showing up to any of them, I decided to make them appointment only. It's fine. And so one very important thing to know about this course is that it is an anatomy course. So this ANAT5 is, you might say, well, it's ANAT5, and then there's also ANAT1 and 2. And so ANAT1 and 2, Anatomy 1 and 2 were designed first to be the first two anatomy courses people take in a medical career. And then people realize, oh, we need a little bit more background for people who've never interacted with anatomy material or that need a bit of a refresher, okay? And so I love teaching this course because a lot of this is stuff that no one's ever thought about or heard about before, and it's very fun for me. Okay, so ANAT5 was created. This is, again, I think we renamed it Basic Introduction to Human Biology or Human Anatomy and Physiology. So why don't I just update that right now in person? Anatomy and Physiology. Okay, so now the point of why I brought up that it's the first of your anatomy courses, if you go in that direction, is that all anatomy courses, if you have a good science class, is going to have a lecture part where you're just learn, and then it's going to have a lab part where you're interacting. Okay, so if this were a normal class in a normal semester rather than the accelerated summer semester, you would have so we'd meet 3 times a week for 3 hours, and so that's a lot of time. Okay, but since it's and that's for 15 weeks total, because this is a summer class, it's only 8 weeks. And if we were meeting in person, we'd be meeting for 6 hours a day for 4 days a week, okay, or something like that. And so that's a lot of time, and that should tell you there's that much material to go through, and that's not even counting what you should be doing outside of class to make sure the information's really sticking in your brain. There's been a lot of good brain research showing that you can't just listen to something to learn it. Even the best people with eidetic memory or photographic memory still need to be able to interact with the material to understand why they remember it and what it's for. Okay, so and if you imagine, if you think, ugh, I don't want to spend that much time with the material, but if you're going into a medical field, can you imagine going to a doctor who says, oh, I skipped most of my anatomy class, but sure, let me heal you? That's horrible. So please, the assumption is that you're taking this class for a reason, such as going into medical coding or nursing or another biology career, etc. And so that is how I'm treating this class, and so that's how you should treat the class as well, because that's, if you want to be successful, that's the way to do it. Okay, so that's that part. My dog's very excited. Me? Shush. She doesn't like when I talk about her, I guess. Okay, so the thing that people really need to know about, well, you need to know all of it, of course, but and don't please. One of the most annoying things to hear is one is, oh, I was out. Did I miss anything? Yes, of course. But this is an asynchronous class, so if you're out, you better make it up on your own time. Because it's up to you. One of the hardest things about this class is actually just making sure you give yourself enough time to do the material. We'll get to that. Another thing is dealing with the access to the book. Now, because we live in the kind of society we do, you do have to buy a book. And not only that, but you can't just buy a used version, like I got through college on used books, but because we are an online class, in order to have a rigorous class that is as rigorous as an in-person class, we do virtual labs. And in order to do virtual labs, we have to use the online McGraw-Hill portal, okay, which is the portal to the textbook, which if you go, and we'll do a lot of, when you're doing this class, you'll see, basically it's the lab as if you were in person, but virtually. And in order to support that system, there's a fee. And so when you are, let's say you're just logging in for the first time and you say, okay, I'm going to have to go and make sure I put in my book. I'm going to have to get access to the textbook. Number one, in the syllabus, they give you a little video talking about it, okay, like how to make sure you do that. If you bought the book package from the MPC bookstore new, you have a Connect code, okay? If you bought it used from anyone, and they've used that Connect code, it will no longer work for you, okay? So that's a problem. So make sure you buy a new book, or you have a new book, or you can also just buy the code itself. And so what that means is when you go and you click on McGraw-Hill, because that's the textbook, you're going to get a slightly different screen than what this is going to show, because this is a professor screen and I've already connected everything. But there'll be a point here where it'll ask you to put in your code or to purchase a code. If you're not sure if you're going to be able to do this class and you just want to kind of test it out for a week, you can or if you need to wait to get money ready, because I understand that very much, you can, what is it called? You can do a demo, or you can test the book out for 2 weeks. I think it's 2 weeks, but then at the end you'll have to pay for it in order to continue, okay? Either way, you're going to end up you'll connect to your section, Da, da, da. Connecting, connecting. And then that's all you ever have to do ever with the Connect site ever. Okay, never come back to this site again. Again, the first. Wait, Beans, hush. Beans is upset about capitalism, and I get it. The the next the where was I? Boop boop boop. Beans, shush. Oh no, I've completely lost my. Oh yeah, so you never interact with this site ever again because everything you're gonna need is gonna happen through the homepage on Canvas. So your very first extra credit point, 2 extra credit points on the very first day of class. Email me introducing yourself and why you're taking the class because that's just fun for me to learn and make sure I have a working email for you. And there's automatically a psychological connection of if a professor interacts with a student personally, they're more likely to have positive feelings for them, right? And so that's just human anatomy, human physiology, or oh my goodness, human psychology. Not my forte, but it's one of the fun little research pieces I know. So now everything, once you have connected through McGraw-Hill, never go back to it again unless something weird happens and you have to go do something because everything that you need for McGraw-Hill is integrated into Canvas, okay? Every assignment, every quiz, every practical, every lab is integrated into Canvas, okay? So the second extra credit point is to say, hey, I will never click on McGraw-Hill again. I will do, or actually all you have to say is I will interact with the material completely through Canvas and I will give you your second extra credit point, okay? So first extra credit point, email me and introduce yourself. And then in the same email, for that second extra credit point, say, I will only interact with the class material through Canvas. There's every year, every semester, there are people who say, I'm not going to listen to you, Megan. What do you know? You're just the professor of the course. I'm just going to do the assignments as I see them here. Okay? You are not going to get all the information you need if you do that. I only use this to do the assignments that I need graded in a very specific way because they're virtual in some way. They have some interactive function that we can't do through Canvas because I don't know coding. Remember how I never taught computer science? Okay, so you'll never touch that again. Everything else happens through here, okay? So, for example, what does that mean? What are the assignments, Megan? What is it? So if you only interact with the material through McGraw-Hill, you don't watch the lectures, you don't learn about what the tests are going to be like and the practicals, you don't learn about extra credit opportunities. There's always someone at the end of the semester who's really mad because they only went through McGraw-Hill and so they didn't know about the extra credit opportunities. I'm telling you now, the only way to get the full experience of this course and the way that it's supposed to be done is to use Canvas. Do not just interact with McGraw-Hill, okay? Fabulous. So now I'm done yelling about that. Let's go back to the syllabus for a second. Okay, so we talked about the textbook. Again, you're using McGraw-Hill. Make sure you use, you're using Canvas only. Canvas only. If you need any technical assistance, MPC has a lot of help, and they're always, because so many people have to use this online system, they have a lot of people working with IT, so contact them. They're very fast. They're very good. I have worked in a lot of schools with very bad IT, and MPC is a place with very, very good IT. Okay, so definitely work with them if you need to. Okay. This class is asynchronous, which means you're not going to be checking in for attendance. Never, ever, ever. If you're like, you just want to know that I know you exist, you can absolutely send me. Oh, that's my cat, Alistair. Another pain in my butt. It's fine. You can absolutely send me emails about anything at any time. I'm somebody who has email alerts on my phone. So I'm always checking them. I might wait till the next day to reply if I'm busy, but otherwise I will see your email and be thinking about it, okay? Absolutely fine. Email me as much as you want. But again, there is no attendance to check in on. But that means you are in charge of getting stuff done on time. And we'll talk about that in a second. You can take this class for a letter grade or a pass, no pass. Okay, that's up to you. It depends on your educational goal and your career goals, etc. If you have questions about that, definitely talk to your counselors, advisors. I don't know what we call them. Sometimes they change. Okay, so what is this? What am I going to be looking at as far as your assessment in this course? You're going to have 3 lab practical exams. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the labs versus the lectures. So anatomy and physiology, we always put those 2 words together because anatomy is a study of structure and physiology is a study of function. Okay, so a lot of times we can, like, let's say you look at a skull and it has big pointy teeth. Well, you can use that anatomy of the pointy teeth to assume that, oh, the structure is pointy teeth. Even without seeing the animal in action, the pointy teeth are probably pulling meat apart. Okay, so that is an assumption of the physiology based on the anatomy. Now, there's a meme going around right now about how, oh, it's common sense that humans should only eat fruit because look at our teeth. And that is a bunch of nonsense because humans are very complicated. And even though our teeth don't have big, like, sharp, like, rending, like, sharp things you might see in a bear, oh, beets, or in a dog, we still need to eat meat or something like it in order to get enough protein because that's just what evolution decided, okay? So, you have to be able to study anatomy and physiology to understand how an organism, in this case humans, works, okay? So in our class, anatomy is going to be covered by the lab. Beans, stop. Beans is take it very personally. Anatomy is covered by the labs. That's where you're going to learn the names of the bones. You're going to learn, that's Alistair, my cat, who likes to terrorize my dog Beans, who's under my chair. Anatomy is covered by the labs. That's where you're going to learn the bones. You're going to learn the muscles. You're going to learn the organs. You're going to learn what different parts of the body are called. It's going to be it's intense, y'all. You learn more unique vocabulary in a science class than you do in a language class, okay? And that's just, no one ever thinks about how learning a new science is a language acquisition, but unfortunately it is. And so you have to interact with that material a lot, okay? So, okay, so a lot of the vocabulary for anatomy is going to come from your labs. Some of those are virtual, some of those are not, okay? Those are, oh, my cat's making me crazy. Some are virtual, some aren't. They're going to be you working with the lab materials physically. Physically in that you'll have a PDF and you can print it out, which I highly recommend. The physiology side is going to come from the lectures, where I'll be lecturing for about an hour for each one about how the endocrine system works, or what the difference between metabolism and catabolism are, or anabolism and catabolism, which add up to metabolism. You'll learn about it. But you have to do both to get full credit for the class, right? So we have lab practicals, which are basically going to be, here's a picture, name what the thing is, because so much of medical science is just knowing what stuff is, okay? You don't want to go to a doctor who say, oh my gosh, it hurts right here. And they're like, oh, cool, I don't know what that is because I didn't bother learning it. Oh, that would be awful. Okay, so you do learn, again, this is just anatomy, the first anatomy course, but you learn, I think, like 200 or 300 words in this class for the practicals, okay? So that's just practicals. So this is, again, a very intensive class as far as how much material you have to learn and work with, okay? There's going to be then, to go with the labs, there are lab question sets as well as simulations for the virtual labs. On the lecture side, there are 4 lecture exams distributed throughout the course, and there are 20 lecture quizzes, okay, because there's about 21 lectures. I haven't decided if that means I'm only going to have 20 quizzes or if I'm going to have 21 and you get to drop the lowest. That's probably the more likely thing, because what I firmly believe that sometimes stuff happens and you need to drop a grade, right? So in this class, you get to drop your lowest exam score. So that includes the practical exam, the lecture exam, or the cumulative final. So let's say you take your first lab practical and you didn't take me seriously when I said you have to memorize 200 bones. And you say, Megan, whatever, I'm going to do what I want because I know things. Because there's always people who do that every semester. I've been teaching this class for almost 10 years, and let me tell you, I have to go back and make sure I know what things are on a very regular basis. This is a second recording of this video because I actually called your forearm bones, the tibia and fibula. No, those are your shin bones, okay? Those are your leg bones. So even someone who's been doing this forever has to be reminded of what things are, okay? So let's say your first lab practical is not great. You don't get to redo it. You only get to interact with each exam once, okay? Very important, once, and they're timed, okay? So don't start it and then go like make a sandwich, okay? Make sure you're sitting and ready to take it when it happens, just as if you're in a classroom taking the exams. But let's say you don't get a great grade on your first lab practical. Don't stress about it. That could be your drop test by the end of the semester, okay? There's 4 lecture exams. Same thing, if for some reason you really don't do well on a lecture exam, or if you miss it for whatever reason, maybe that's your drop test. You only get to do 1, so don't be, too callous about it. But let's say you take all the lab practicals, all the lecture exams, you do all the material, and then you get to the final and you're happy with your grade. And you're like, well, what if I take the final and it drops my grade? Well, that can't happen, because if it drops your grade, then I just drop the final and you go back to your original grade, right? The only thing the final can do is increase your grade. Okay, so think about that. The goal, for me, if I was looking at this, I'd say, well, my goal is to make sure that I don't have to take that final. Okay. But again, if something happens, then you can drop one of the other tests instead. Okay. Beep, boop, boop. Talked about that. Well, this isn't relevant because we are asynchronous. So, even though we are asynchronous and you're doing this on your own time, we are still held to very high academic standards. The exams are not proctored in the classic way of online learning where I'm going to have a video watching you because I don't believe that's equitable. Both of my animals are losing their minds. And because look at that. What if you're taking an exam and then a dog barks and then it marks you as having cheated because you talked to someone? That's not fair. Or like you're taking care of a baby at the same time. Well, that's not fair. So I'm not going to be watching you take exams because I feel like that's an invasion of privacy. But you are going to have timed exams so that I know that you're not just Googling every single answer. Okay. Because again, you need to know these that you're taking this class for a reason. You don't want that reason to be later you're a nurse who doesn't know what a tibia is, right? So that would be bad. So, just think about that, okay? All right, so, beep, boop, boop. I have had cases where students have cheated in an asynchronous class and we've had to take it to the deans. Please don't make us do that. It never works out well, okay? So, this class, though, if you're taking it, it's probably because you want to, right? And so, because there's other science classes you could take if you just need a science credit. Okay, so students over the years have added their advice as like how, as far as how to really get the material to sink in. I used to have a bunch of Quizlets for this class. Some of them have been lost over time. Other people have made Quizlets, so if you go to Quizlet, which is an app that is flashcards basically, you might be able to find them. Otherwise, one other thing it can really do to help yourself is make your own Quizlet. As you go through, make your own flashcards. Because then you're writing them down and then you're learning it, right? So that my cat's very upset about it. Okay, another really good thing is teach it to someone. There's something I taught physics for the first part of my teaching career, and I almost failed physics, but it was the first job I could get as a teacher after I was a scientist for a long time, and so I learned physics. I learned it better than I ever did when I was learning it because I was teaching it to someone else. And there's something about if you can't teach it, then you don't know it, right? And so if you want to make sure you know it, try teaching it to someone else. Even if it's TikTok, even if it's your goldfish, whatever. It's a powerful thing to teach somebody something else. And also considering the amount of misinformation on places like TikTok, it might be nice to balance it with some actual information. Okay. Beep, boop, boop. Okay. Let's see. My cat's coming on camera. Group studies. There's going to be a discussion board that's optional. Okay, get out of the way, cat. If you want to talk to people about study habits, etc., I will show you where that'll be in a little bit. Oh my gosh, my cat wants to discuss. This is Alistair Growley. He's a monster. Okay, make sure also don't do all-nighters. All-nighters are not good for you. You are going to forget everything that you learned by the time you sleep next if you do an all-nighter. Trust me, from both doing the research and doing it myself, it's not good for you. Make sure you are eating, sleeping, drinking as best you can. Okay, we all do what we can. Things are hard for many, many people right now, but you know, please just do your best, okay? And make sure I'm not going to lecture you. Even when we get to digestion, I'm not going to be judging what you eat because it's better to eat crap than to eat nothing, right? So, yeah, oh man, I want to make sure everyone knows I love anatomy and physiology. I think it's all fascinating. I am not a doctor. I'm an evolutionary biologist with physiology training. I used to work with stingrays and sharks and rats and birds. I love to think about how these things relate to each other. When people tell me, "Oh my gosh, I have this rash," or "Oh my gosh, I look at this X-ray I just had done," I think it's fascinating. I might be able to say, "Oh, I wonder if that's this," but I am not medically trained. I cannot look at someone once showed me, one of my friends showed me her X-ray or her MRI for a slipped disc, and I was fascinated. But I couldn't give her any medical advice. I gave her advice as far as, well, here's what I think this is, but talk to your doctor. Don't talk to me. I will think it's fascinating, but I will not be able to give you medical advice. Every year someone comes to me and says, "Oh, my little brother used my toothbrush and I have HIV. Is he going to get HIV?" And I am just like, I mean, theoretically, yes. So that's bad. But also HIV is treatable now. So go talk to your doctor. Okay, keep in mind, I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot give medical advice. I'm happy to talk about things, but I can't give medical advice. All right, here are some important class dates if you need to drop for whatever reason. Hopefully you won't. Hopefully I don't scare you away. But also do what's best for you, as always. Here is our tentative class schedule for this summer. Why is there no 5 there? There we go. Okay, so, and this is partly so that I can keep things organized. This is recreated on the dashboard, okay? So when you go here, everything you need, so once the class opens, either later today or tomorrow on its official open date, all of this will be published. This, the first week's information will be published. And here, again, what I recommend is just go straight down the list, okay? So the first thing, tomorrow or this, whenever you're watching this video, the very first piece of information that you're going to interact with is lecture 1. Okay, and this is just introducing the course a little bit more, and then talking about, and also some of these videos they were good enough, and so I haven't remade them, and so you get to see some fun hairstyles from 10 years ago. Maybe that long, not that long, but still interesting. Anatomy hasn't changed that much in that much time, so I haven't updated some of them. But I always include the slides. Now, if possible, I recommend printing out the slides and taking notes all over them. Okay. If not, either way, do not listen to my lectures at 2 times the speed while you're like washing dishes. This isn't a podcast. Okay. First of all, I talk so fast already when I get excited about something. I can't imagine what it would be like to listen to me at 2 times the speed, except that it would just be a headache. Okay. And I don't say this out of ego or anything. I know I talk fast and I try to fix it and it just doesn't work. So I don't recommend listening to lectures at 2 times the speed. There's no way you'll take in all the information. Okay. I do recommend writing as much as possible. And that's not just typing. There is something about the connection between when we are writing something and learning it. Okay. Because you're writing it, which is causing you to take a little bit of time, and you're reading it while you write it, and so you're taking it in a different way, and you're listening. Okay, so there's a reason why language classes have you do reading, writing, and listening as well as speaking. Okay, because those are the ways that you have to do something in order to learn a new language. And if you think about an anatomy class as a language, then you should do all of those things to really learn the material. Okay. Okay, so you'll watch the lecture, and then, oh, cool, I watched the lecture. What do I do now? You go on next, and the next thing that'll pop up that just isn't there right now is a lecture quiz. You could take it right after. You get to take the quizzes and the labs twice if you want to. Let's say you don't do well the first time, you want to get a better grade, take it again. You cannot do that with the exams. Remember, the exams you can only do once. Okay, otherwise you take the lecture quiz, you move on to the labs, okay? The labs, again, sometimes the labs will have a little lecture where I talk about them, but the very, 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 very important thing about the labs is the PDF, okay? Ooh, there's a 3rd extra credit point. So you can email me, introduce yourself, tell me you will only interact with the class through Canvas, and that you will always read the lab PDF, and that's 3 extra credit points. Holy cow, Megan, that's 3 extra credit points in the first day. So the reason why is because when you look at the lab PDF, this is where all the information is, okay? Now, I pull everything for the practicals from the PDFs, okay? Everything from the practicals comes from the PDFs. So it tells you what to do, okay? So lab 1 is lab safety. This is very important. Part 2, you're identifying, at least in first lab, you're identifying body cavities and their contents. I need to go make sure these sections are correct, but they're about correct anyway, because it's been a while since I've updated these for the new book. Okay, so anything in bold, these are all fair game for the practicals. And so the idea is you'll get a picture. Let's say you get a picture that looks sort of like this, and then I've taken all the words away, and then there's just a little asterisk pointing to this. And it'll say what structure is denoted by the asterisk. And you'll say, oh, Megan, from the multiple choice, I know that's the diaphragm. And in your brain, you'll say, I know it's the diaphragm because it separates the thoracic cavity from the abdominal pelvic cavity. And then, oh, you got it right. Good job. Okay, that's how the practicals work. You'll move on. Yes, you have to learn anything in bold. The anatomy department has decided as a group that these are the things you need to know in order to pass the class and then move on to the next level of anatomy. Okay. So again, this is where I would make my flashcards, and I would make my flashcards with a picture, and don't just use the pictures that are in the lab. Go and find other pictures. I love collecting. I'm trying to see if I have any here. I love collecting strange anatomy pictures, because there are some really weird, sassy ones where you'll have a skeleton like strutting, or you'll have somebody flexing their bicep and there's a cat on it. Like anatomy books get weird. It's fantastic. One thing anatomy books are very bad about is including diversity. So hopefully they're getting a bit better, but there's been a whole revolution in the last 2 years where people have realized, hey, how come all anatomy books are just white people? And then you go to the doctor and you're not a white person, but your doctor's never seen someone who's not white in their studies. And that is something to really have in the back of your mind while you're thinking about these things, is trying to find diverse pictures of anatomy structures is important. And if you're someone who likes illustration, that could be a career choice for you. Anyway, moving on. You'll keep going through part 3. You're going to understand that. Okay, I'm not going to read the lab. That's what the lecture's all about. The point being, make sure when you're interacting with the lab, you read the PDF, okay? Because not all labs are going to have virtual lab sections. And that's why you don't just interact with the McGraw-Hill. You also you only interact with the Canvas page. Because like Lab 1 does have some virtual labs with it, but it's mostly the PDF. If you go later in the course, like you'll notice this, let's see, boo, boo, boo. So this week, it's mostly virtual labs. There later in the course, like for example, if you look at the lab for the skull, there's no virtual lab for the skull. It's just, hey, here's the skull. You need to learn all the parts, and it's a lot of parts. And so if you were just looking at McGraw-Hill, you would have no idea that you need to learn the skull, okay? And that's bad. So again, make sure you are interacting with the lab PDF on Canvas, okay? Fabulous. I don't know that there's anything else I need to tell you right now. I think that that's a pretty good introduction to the course. There are some things. So MPC has a lot of recommended, or a lot of resources for y'all, because school really does want you to be successful. Okay, there are book vouchers, there are emergency loans and grants, there are Chromebooks if you need them, etc. I don't know if we're still considered under COVID-19. COVID is getting bad again, so please be careful, but there's that link. So check this out if you need to. I've also, for the first, I think, 3 weeks, provided a recommended schedule, because again, remember, this is all on your schedule. So I provided everything you have to do by Sunday. Everything is going to be due by Sunday, except for 1 week, okay? Everything is due. All of the lecture material, all of the lab material is due this week by Sunday, June 8th at 11:59 p.m., okay? So if you wait until Sunday night to turn everything in, so does everyone else in other classes that all use McGraw-Hill, and the server is likely to crash. They try and fix it. They never fix it. Okay, so please do not wait until Sunday to turn everything in. I am a very patient and empathetic person, but if you wait till Sunday to turn everything in and the server crashes, I am likely not going to be super empathetic and patient, because I'm telling you now, do not wait until Sunday to turn everything in. You don't have enough time to get everything done. Okay, now you'll notice this is due Sunday, 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 Friday. The last week of class everything is due on a Friday. You do not have the weekend to do that last set of materials. You'll notice it's not as much. It's just 3 exams. I don't know. I don't think I actually do this anymore, so I'm going to take that away. So please make sure you get everything done by Friday on this week. This is set up by the school, not by me, because this is the last day of class. The 25th, July 25th is the last day of class, and that's a Friday. I can't do anything about that. I can't do extensions at all on this week because of that reason, okay? So please make sure that very last day, I would recommend getting everything done by Friday every week, just so that then you can have your weekend, unless your weekend is skewed because of working and everything, okay? So about the recommended schedule, I would recommend that, again, remember, we're trying to fit 15 weeks of material into 8 weeks of class. I recommend you pick 5 days of the week, and you say, okay, nope, I can't do anything else right now. It's anatomy class time. Okay, so here's my recommended schedule. Remember, you don't have to do it this way. Do it whatever way works best for you, okay? One nice thing about asynchronous is that you can do it whatever way, however you want. One bad thing about asynchronous is no one is watching to make sure you get it done on time. So please make sure you are scheduling these things yourself and you're really keeping up with your own material, okay? You're gonna see review the materials from day 1 and 2. That's for real, man. If you just look at it once, you're not gonna retain it. And you're gonna get to the exams that are in like the first one is next week, and you're gonna say, "Oh yeah, I remember seeing that word, but I don't remember what it means." Oh no! Make sure you keep activating your brain and activating that material over and over. Okay. One last thing is sometimes the labs and lectures will overlap. For the first part of the course, they do not, okay? Because in the lectures, we're talking about chemistry things, and in the labs, we're talking about okay, one way to think about it the scientific way, we're talking in the lectures, we're talking about micro things, so things you cannot see with your naked eye, and in the labs, we're doing macro things, which are things you can see with the naked eye, okay? So we're like lecture 4, I think, is about cellular metabolism, which is very important. And lab 4, I think, is about microscopes, which is a way to see cellular metabolism, but otherwise there's a whole new set of vocabulary for each one, okay? So please make sure you, it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. It seems like a lot. It is a lot. It can be very intimidating, but remember that it's all about you because this is your body. This is your physiology. This is your career. If that's your choice moving forward, this is what you're chosen. Thanks, Beans. Good stuff, Beans. Good. This is what you've decided to do, hopefully with your life. And so, you can do it. People have been doing it. People have been successful doing it. That could be you next. So please, let me know if you have any questions. And I'm here for you. And y'all, it's going to be a good course. Just make sure you keep up with your deadlines. Okay? Okay, bye.